Welcome to the Busted Open Podcast. This is the Busted Open Podcast.
Yes. Welcome in, professional wrestling fans. Welcome in, Busted Open Nation. And I am Ryan McKinnell, your weekend host. I am joined, as always, by the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. And Mark, this is just no regular Saturday show. It's a Survivor Series Saturday here on Busted Open.
Man. Survivor Series at its finest.
30 years ago, Mark, almost to the day. Yeah, it's Survivor Series. It's a special Survivor Series as we look back on The Undertaker. That's right, the one and only Mark Calloway making his debut 30 years ago to the day at Survivor Series as a mystery entrant, mystery member of the $1 Million Team led by the one and only $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And who better, Mark, to talk about The Undertaker and 30 years ago than the man himself, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. That's right. He's on this show today.
Man, listen, we could have spent another hour talking to Ted DiBiase. Such clearance and understanding in the way that he delivered it. Like, it was an unbelievable thing. Can't wait for y'all to hear this.
Uncle Nate, you the best.
Dong. Ooh, so the fail. Let's start that one again. Ooh, well, the lights. Wait, the flashlight's not working. Damn it. Boo. Retry. Dong. All right, well, that gimmick failed. This is the light. That's not really Undertaker either. Or $1 Million Man. Yo, what's up, Natitude? Yo, this Sunday, last Sunday was Undertaker's 30th. He gone. Final farewell. He gone until they need him in the Middle East. Anyways, so before that, Ted DiBiase was on Busted Open, and he had an interesting convo, and I had a bunch of snippets that I'm going to pull out. That's why you're watching this right now. Probably because you saw his thumbnail and then, or some tags and stuff, and you're like, oh, Ted DiBiase was talking about Undertaker on Busted Open to Mark Henry. Oh, damn! And to the weekend guy, who he is, I don't care who he is. They talked about, DiBiase was talking about basically how Undertaker was when he arrived, as you know, that it was Ted DiBiase's team that he debuted on Survivor Series. So he was talking about how his nerves and stuff was, and basically how Undertaker was at the beginning of his career. And there was a hilarious catchphrase swap and backstage that I highlighted. And the main reason I actually wanted to do this podcast showcase on DiBiase and Busted Open was not even because he was talking about Undertaker, but since the algorithm's going to say use Undertaker right now, I'm going to, and that whole reason why he was on was Undertaker, I added the cool Undertaker stories at the beginning. But the whole reason that I laughed, I marked out, I just laughed at this little tiny segment of DiBiase on Busted Open. I'm inside. I'm still looking sideways like I'm on the deck, on the balcony. Was because he had a match with Ric Flair and something interesting happened. And then just the way that DiBiase, young-ass DiBiase, reacted to... yeah, you just watch it. Just listen. Ted DiBiase, Mark Henry, Busted Open conversation. Dick, that, bloop. Dong. Who's gonna press the button?
Everybody's gonna pay.
Yeah, still one of the greatest entrance music themes of all time, and it is for one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time, WWE Hall of Famer and 30 years ago, almost to the day, in 24 hours. Yeah, tomorrow. 30 years ago this weekend, this man brought us The Undertaker at Survivor Series. He is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He is the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, joining Busted Open right now. Ted DiBiase, thanks for giving us a few minutes. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you this morning?
We are great. We are excited. I know Mark's excited. I know I'm excited. We're all excited as professional wrestling fans, Ted, because, well, as I said, 30 years ago today, as your mystery team member, you brought us The Undertaker. So I guess we got to give you a big thanks,
we
Ted.
owe you.
Yeah, we owe you. Ted, I'm just going to ask you this. What do you remember about the lead up to that Survivor Series, the mystery surrounding that entrant, and I guess the expectations of a young Mark Calaway, now known as The Undertaker, and what he was set to become?
Well, I personally, I remember that I thought, the uniqueness of the character, fascinated me. And I think that they did a very good job of building this up and making it exciting. And then when this guy comes out and looks like he looks, I mean, that, of course, that was the first entrance. And of course, then later, as that character grew, oh my gosh, I can remember, I think we were in Chicago, and it was another pay-per-view, and I think it was the first. I'm standing in the ring. This was when I had become a ringside manager, and I can't remember who he was wrestling that night. I'm getting old, but the first time that Undertaker came to the ring with all of the, with all of the torches on each side,
right,
unbelievable entrance. But Mark Calaway is number one. He's great. He's great in so many ways. I mean, he's not only a great wrestler, but he's a great guy. He's a very likable person. But it's like, I don't think anybody, and I know I certainly had no idea at the time. It's just, I say the same thing about Steve Austin. I don't know anybody realized at the time when they were first starting out like that they would grow to be these phenomenons. And, but the fact that Mark has carried this thing, the thing that intrigued me as a performer was for Mark to be able to get in the ring and to stay in character and to move in that fashion. You know what I'm saying? Like to move as slowly as he moved, yet to be as effective as he was. I think, I just think it was, I don't think anybody realized how far he was going to go. And my gosh, guess what? He's still going. He's the last of the, I would say, unless there's somebody else, I think he's the last guy that's actively, taking part in wrestling matches that is from my era. We're all getting old.
Now you talk about Undertaker fans, Ted, obviously 30 years ago this weekend, tomorrow, which I think is really cool. Obviously the date lines up, which is another reason I think you could do something, a proper send off. Not that he hasn't had plenty. He certainly has, but I think on some level the door is open, right? That's tomorrow. But let's go back to 30 years ago. Almost today, right? 30 years ago this weekend, it's around Thanksgiving time. There's this like book ended by the gobbledygooker, like Survivor Series 1990 was a really, obviously important event for so many reasons for us as professional wrestling fans. But Mark Calaway, The Undertaker, he's making his debut. No one has seen this yet. At the time he's with Brother Love, soon to be Paul Bearer, joining up and obviously becoming The Undertaker that we know and love today. But Ted, take me back to that week, take me back to those weeks. What were the nerves like? Like, what was Mark like heading into that? This was a huge debut for him. And Ted, he didn't have the juice that he has today. He certainly wasn't a locker room leader. No one knew he was going to be one of the greatest of all time. He didn't know he was going to be a Hall of Famer, right? So take me back 30 years ago into what he was like leading up into that match and that debut.
Well, I mean, Mark was just, I would say anybody else. I mean, I had been a wrestler. Here's a kid who grew up in wrestling, a kid who had been in wrestling dressing rooms even before I was a wrestler with my dad, and knew all these guys, and had been a wrestler for 12 years. But when I came to the then WWF, Wrestling had exploded, and it was somewhat, and so now, instead of doing our TV shows in little studios with, two sets of bleachers on two sides of the ring, all of our TV shows are in coliseums. And, it's like every crowd's a big crowd. I was intimidated by that. I mean, intimidated in a way that, like, the first time I went out on TV as the $1 Million Man, I was nervous. I was a little bit apprehensive, but once I was out there, I was okay. And I would say that's how Mark was. I mean, it's like this is his debut. This is like everything that had been done. It was leading up to this entrance and this appearance. And I'm sure he was. Of course, I didn't talk to him about it. And because a lot of guys, I remember when my son Ted Jr., when he debuted, I was behind the curtain with him, and this is what I told him just before he walked out. I said, "Put everything else out of your mind." I said, "But when you walk through that curtain, you own the place. I want that to be the thought in your mind, your attitude. I own the place. That presentation, and he did that." So
I definitely would have to agree with that. There's been many times that the anxiety of a match, especially I think the most that I ever had was main eventing with Taker at WrestleMania 22.
Yeah. And
being a part of the streak and me wanting to live up to every match that I saw growing up of the Undertaker at WrestleMania. And I was like, almost had to breathe into a paper bag because I was like, I just couldn't believe that moment had come up. But I was always told, if you ever get to where you don't feel like that, you need to get out of the business, because
you're absolutely right, brother.
That's
you're
what protects you.
Because if it doesn't mean any more than that to you, that's going to come across to the crowd. Mark Henry, you and I know, whether it's wrestling or whatever, but like you can wrestle all the time, but when you're wrestling in WrestleMania, when you're wrestling a big show, we all have the jitters. We all have, every time you go on a football field or whatever, but once you make that first contact, you relax and you get into the game. And I would say that's how it was for Mark. There's a match I had with Ric Flair on TV where I hit it quick. This is back when we would cut ourselves with razor blades like idiots. And I hit an artery in my forehead, and every time my heart would beat, it would just squirt out.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I told Rick, I said, put my head over the top rope. I'm going to get the girls on the front row.
The 80s. So, let's go.
Oh, the 80s.
Yeah.
You know the deal. Comment, like, subscribe for more podcast showcase and more Native Tube stuff, which is hip-hop, wrestling, and sports. I got you, fam. You like the shit I'm doing? Like, hit the bells, subscribe, just click, 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 click. I don't know what graphics I'm putting over here, but doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Bye. Umbalapalapalelo, umbalapalapalelo.
NWO Radio, taking the world the fuck over. From the D313 to the T.6. This is the Ninth Ninja. We out here.